Hello, my dear church boys, and welcome back to St. Robert's Daygame Pickup Podcast. In this podcast episode, I'm having a chat with James Tusk. This is actually a recording from a Facebook Live we did on James Tusk's Facebook page. And we go over a bunch of topics. Let me read you the topic list. We talk about our very different approaches to traveling for Daygame, different stages a Daygamer goes through from the beginning to advanced, how to find out who's a good Daygame coach and who's just really good at sales. Also, we're talking about, is it worth opening the hottest girls if you are an average looking guy, and what you have to pay attention to if you choose to do so. Best countries to travel to for Daygame for beginners and advanced guys, how Daygame has changed our views into relationships in the future and how has it changed us as people. And we end the Facebook Live with talking about how to overcome negative self-talk. As you know, guys, I do this podcast once a week, maybe once in 2 weeks, depending on how busy I am. And my podcast and my YouTube channel are like the mainstream places where I post my content. It's for the casual listener, casual viewer. But if you want to know what's really going on behind the scenes, where we're traveling with the guys, what's happening, what's going on, then there are two more places you should check out. One is my mailing list, and the other is the Daygame Church Telegram group chat, where we have over 200 guys, around 200 guys from all over the world. Basically, if there is anything more interesting happening regarding Daygame and traveling, then I usually send it out to the mailing list and the group chat. It's more of a inner circle type of thing. And if you want to work on your game and become a better Daygamer, but you can't travel for Daygame coaching because of COVID, then get a Skype coaching call. The more serious COVID becomes, the more I do Skype coaching calls, and now I coach one, maybe two guys a month, and the rest is coaching calls. And I recently coached a guy from US, from I think San Francisco, so let me read you what he said about our experience. Hey James, just wanted to give my reaction to Robert's coaching. I've tried a few other coaches who basically didn't give me anything I could use, told me what I'm doing is fine already and to just keep approaching. Robert is the first dude who actually sits down and listen to my sets to give me advice I can use. This dude actually gives a fuck about his students. Just for context, the other coaches I've tried in the past were, name is skipped, who really doesn't give a fuck, and someone else who was just too rusty to really give good advice anymore. This was the first call, so I'll be sure to follow up at the end with how my progress went from first call to last call. Enjoy the rest of the weekend, fellas. Just for the context, this is a guy who signed up for a mentorship program, which means we are doing 12 coaching calls over 6 month period. So if you want to sign up for a coaching call, just head over to strobert.blog, strobert.blog, and on the top menu, click on Daygame coaching and then Skype coaching. But if you can actually travel and you want to come down Mexico and do some actual Daygame, then you can sign up for that too. The few cities that are available, I will be going to Guadalajara, which is now the third largest city in Mexico, I think, so I'll be going there. But the biggest thing to come down for is the spring break. I have one guy coming down for spring break, but I have one more spot open. That is, I think it starts March 6th and goes on for a week, and it's just a bunch of Americans having a spring break and college chicks coming down to Cancun area of Mexico to party. So if you want to go come down for that and try to learn to pick up those chicks, then shoot me an email or sign up via the webpage. And now let's get down to the conversation with James Tusk.
Okay, so yeah, guys, welcome. We are live from Playa del Carmen. I'm with my old partner in crime, Mr. St. Robert, who is a day game and dating coach from Latvia, from Riga? Yeah, Riga. Muscle Menos from Riga. And yeah, we just thought we'd catch up. He's been in Playa del Carmen for a month. I've just got here again for 2 days. I'm waiting to go basically like a 14-day quarantine to then fly to Brazil. And yeah, guys, post sounds good. Yeah, cheers for the feedback there. And yeah, bang, any questions you want to, we've got a few topics to discuss we're going to go through. But if you have questions for us as we go, just obviously fire them away in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. But yeah, maybe just to begin with, for guys that haven't listened to the podcast we recorded together, Maybe tell the guys a bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Saint Robert. They call me that because, well, I'm a good church boy.
How many times have you used that joke? I've heard it about 15.
You know how it started? It started when I went on dates, and there was this menu I used that's right next to a church.
Actually,
And when I would walk chicks back to mine, I would tell them that that's the church I go to every Sunday. And I were joking about how we can't go to my place because first I have to go and introduce them to my grandparents, and then we have to go to church, and so that's actually that name was created. But yeah,
Nice.
I've been coaching Daygame for around 3 years now, and worked with guys literally from all over the world: USA, Canada, Australia, Hong Kong, all over Europe, UK, Switzerland, Israel, basically you name it.
Israel, interesting, cool.
Yeah, and I've been traveling around for the last 1.5 years, just living from city to city.
You do slightly different way to me because for the last 3 years I've kind of really jumped like a week or 2 weeks in each place. You tend to spend at least a month, right?
Yeah, I usually spend a month in each city. I just like to have that Airbnb where I come back, and I have that home where I can watch Netflix for 3 days and feel good about it.
Yeah, and not necessarily. I'm building more of kind of a kind of understanding of the place, a social circle, rather than just being like
2
crazy.
weeks is like
2 weeks is what you usually do.
Not a lot for social circle, but here in a few weeks you can build a social circle because you day game, you get some chicks from there, they have friends, you go out all together.
Yeah.
We were setting up these parties on our rooftop where I would have a chick show up, Mr. T, which is like a wing of mine, would have his chick show up. And we would just all hang out together. And I actually interviewed the chick I banged here. I interviewed her in my podcast.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
What girls think about Daygame? It was hilarious.
And how did that pan out in the end?
We stopped seeing each other right after the podcast. She just unfollowed me on Instagram, and we haven't spoken since.
All went very wrong. This is a very experimental thing we're doing. I mean, I've never done a Facebook Live before. I obviously have a presence on YouTube. You're starting to build a presence on YouTube. But yeah, if there are questions, great. If there's not, we've got some topics to cover anyway. So It's all good. So yeah, what are your general thoughts on Playa del Carmen as a place to game? Is it a good place to be coming now during coronavirus? Are people looking, for summer open? Is it not? What are your thoughts overall?
It's definitely one of the best places right now. Even though I'm leaving it, you're thinking about leaving it. It's good because everyone's coming here, and that's the main thing that makes this place so amazing. And outside of Daygame, there's a lot of shit to do, like the nature, and the city is pretty okay, and you have a lot of nice beaches around this place. So it's definitely worth coming here. Mexico in general is a good place to come to if you don't go to Mexico City, which is lockdowns. But
Mexico City now is shit.
Yeah, you have to find cities that are still open enough to Daygame, so you have some venues to do dates on. Other than that, yeah, I think it's a good place to come to.
Yeah, there's a high frequency of tourists. Everyone's here for a good time, not a long time. Mexican girls are pretty easygoing. They like meeting foreign men, don't they? They generally speak a bit of English because it's a touristy place, so it's not a bad place to come and go.
I didn't see the gringo factor here.
No, well, there's a lot of Americans, right?
Yes.
And so that fucks it up a bit. But you're thinking about maybe going off to Guadalajara or Oaxaca?
Yeah, I will most likely go to Guadalajara in a few days. Check out a bigger city.
It's a cool place. Like I was there. It's a bit more of a concrete jungle, but I think it's a good place to run a boot camp. And I was there with a couple of guys, so I think it's going to be super useful. So yeah, just guys, if you are interested in working with St. Robert, he will be running a boot camp there in Guadalajara. Dates to be confirmed, but get in touch. Send me a message on here. I can put you in touch with him, or we can figure out whatever. We've got a question coming through from Joe. What are your thoughts on future for Daygame in the UK, Tusk? Well, yeah, at the moment it's fucking shit. Avoid it. Come to Mexico or go to Brazil. But yeah, at the moment, obviously, without the vaccine in play, it's very hard to kind of be approaching stuff. So,
but people are still approaching there.
They are. I mean,
I speak to guys that they complain like how long it takes to meet a girl, but like to see someone not worth opening, but they're still out.
Yeah, and also, you've got we always think about it from our side, don't we, with us getting rusty, but at the end of the day, women are lacking that attention.
Of course.
So they want to be interacting with guys as well. So yeah, I mean, look, if you see the opportunity, go for it. But personally, if you're able to get out of the UK, obviously the weather is there, not good at the moment either. So I'd highly suggest go to Brazil, go to Mexico, go to maybe Minsk, but that's going to be colder.
That's going to be pretty cold right now. But yeah, that's definitely, because they are in a pretty strict lockdown, but in the future, as soon as it opens,
Yep.
I loved London for Daygame. I was
I remember we caught up there, and you were a big fan of it. You stayed in Soho, which is a great spot to go. Very a bit kind of alternative, but fucking cool place. London in summer is great. I'll give you that. Like, yeah.
I'll definitely go there like this summer too for like a few weeks.
Guys, you only approach. What do you think about Tinder now? I mean, I do kind of use Tinder sometimes. Like I'd always say to guys, like 90% cold approach, 10% anything else you want really, and Tinder being one of those. And actually, if you're going to a new place, you haven't got any leads, to pipeline, maybe swipe through a lot, do a boost thing in the location, passport the location, swipe through loads, get a few leads together, and then start going on a few dates to begin. It's not the worst thing to do, is it? Just to get the ball rolling.
Well, in Europe, I don't use it at all. Zero.
Right.
Like zero, because in Europe it's kind of been there, done that. You're not exotic there. But when I go to a location, like I went to Balkans, I tried it in Balkans. That was a big mess. But when I came to Mexico,
not fun.
No, not at all. No, did get laid there, but it wasn't I didn't like it. Tinder is like fucked up. In Balkans, like the chicks on the street are so hot that why would you do that?
Yeah.
Whereas when I came to Mexico, I did try Tinder just to see whether being white and from Europe does anything, but not really.
Not in your experience. I think again, if you're out somewhere, if you're outside of Playa del Carmen, outside of a very touristy place, chances are that it's going to have more impact.
Yeah, I'll try it in Guadalajara.
I'm going to try in Oaxaca. I haven't been to Oaxaca for a few years. I'm not sure what kind of gringo factor is there, but obviously the more you get off the beaten track, the better it is for using Tinder. We had a few, it's almost a shame. We were having a catch-up coffee yesterday, and we had a kind of an off-the-cuff talk, and we should have fucking just recorded that.
Yeah, that was...
Because that was like in the moment, and it was afterwards, we're like, fuck, that would have been really good information, but we're both kind of in a similar position where we've gone through that process of, I guess, the first few years of learning this, we're smashing through the approaches, you're just sleeping with lots of girls. It's almost an ego validation, isn't it, to prove that you can sleep with girls? Or I found it was for me.
I was just excited.
You were just excited as well.
I just like sex, man.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But I think we're both on the same page in the sense that you realise after a while it can get a bit soulless, it can get a bit shallow doing that. And you almost kind of, I guess the life cycle that you move into is slightly different in the sense that maybe it is a better use of your time and a more satisfying use of your time to hit the ground running in a new place, really get through the approaching, and then meet a couple of girls that you almost kind of have that honeymoon experience.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last, I don't know, like a while. The first time I completely changed my view on game was actually after I did mushrooms for the first time.
Okay.
Because I was doing these dates that were structured, and I knew exactly what to do, and I knew exactly what to say. It was copy paste, and I knew that it was like, if I go on like 2 first dates, I'll fuck one of them, and like it was like I was like a machine. And I did this mushroom trip, and I solved that. I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. And I started going on dates just to enjoy them more, or not go if I didn't feel like the chick. Whereas now, I really do what you said. I go to a new city, I game enough to get a few regulars that I can enjoy the city with, have this honeymoon period. I'll see them more often than you normally see a regular, because you normally see a regular like once a week, where I would see them like every second, every third day, and I would spend several days in a row together and just have this beautiful experience. And once you're able to do that, of course you still have to approach, but that's when you can actually start daygaming less and start working on your business, on your health, on whatever it is you want to work on, building value.
Yeah.
Work on your SMV.
Yeah, it's true, because when you start off this journey, you have to be approaching a lot because you just don't know what you're fucking doing, right? And when you go to a new city, you have to be approaching a lot because you just don't have options. But after a while, you do get kind of not bored of the approaching, but it does become very samey. And yeah, it's just nice to kind of know in the back of your brain, if you just put the hard work in for the first few days, then you can maybe meet a couple of cool chicks and just have that kind of cool experience with them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the natural life cycle, isn't it? That people
it's a painful lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because you go to a new city and you meet this amazing chick and you have this amazing connection, but then you leave. Or if you're in the city for a longer time, there are always, like, sometimes there comes this time, especially if you're really non-monogamous and you still kind of day game and still have like a few chicks on the side, most chicks are fine with that and they're really okay with it, but there comes a time with every chick when they're like, yeah, I'm done with this. And it's so painful. And
well, it's understandable, right? Because most of the girls are looking for maybe something slightly more substantial, and you can kind of keep it going. Like I've had experiences where I've kind of seen girls on and off, and I go back to a city maybe 3-4 times a year, and they kind of just are still single when you can kind of catch up with where you left off. But you've got to expect that they're going to find a boyfriend and then they're just going to ditch you. Because their boyfriend offers something else, right?
And you might not, even when you go back to the city, you aren't necessarily just going to be like, hey, come over to my place. Like,
yeah, no, because you've lost that kind of connection. And
you build the, like, attraction is probably there, but you still build a bit of attraction, you build a bit of comfort, and then you still go through the model, and then you invite her over. And so we have quite a bit of questions, it seems.
What do you guys think about wearing a mask when approaching?
I actually, just before coming to Mexico, I spent 1.5 months in Portugal.
Right.
And I was coaching a guy there, and in Portugal you have to wear a mask outside. And we did all of the coaching, 5 days of coaching while wearing masks, and we saw zero difference. I saw zero difference when coaching someone with a mask or without the mask.
Right.
Nothing changes in approaches, and girls still love it just as much. There's nothing awkward about it. Whether it's on a street, in a mall, wherever you have, whatever your local regulations are, there's zero change.
I agree. I had it Guadalajara because you do a lot of the approaching in the shopping malls, and you have to wear a mask in there. And I was going into like Zara stores like that, so quite high pressure in a store with a mask. And women are women. They're still responding to the same shit, right? So it doesn't make any difference at all. I think it's more of an issue for guys getting in their own head, right? It's a bit like if they see a girl on a phone, they're like, oh, I can't do it, she's on a phone. I feel this is kind of a modern day version of that, where, oh, she's wearing a mask, I can't approach. It's like, come on, of course you fucking can.
I think if someone who's doing 25, 30 opens a week asks that question, it has a different meaning than when someone who's doing less than 25 opens a week asks the same question.
Interesting. So yeah, maybe expand on that. What would be the difference?
So if someone who's going out a lot ask that question, I think it's a legit question. They might think, oh, can I still do this? Is it socially acceptable to open while we have this COVID thing going on? Whereas if someone who isn't going out as much and is still working on overcoming his approach anxiety, and if you do less than 25 sets a week, then you're basically working on overcoming approach anxiety. That's what you're actually doing, and on kind of building the right habits for the game. So if that person asks the question, then it isn't really about the mask. It adds to approach anxiety and makes it harder to overcome it, because now there's this mask thing involved, and maybe it's even like a reason not to open, or
Yeah, I agree. Maybe going back to that again, because it's something that we do preach in common, and it is worth reminding guys, because we're always kind of looking to give guys what's the maximum bang for your buck type of advice, for what's the minimum amount of effort for the maximum return. And we always come back to this number, don't we, of at least 25 to 30 a week every week. Yeah. It seems like a scary number, but when you break it down, it's only like fucking 4 approaches a day. Yeah. And that is what, in a day of 24 hours, it's what,
half an hour. Oh, this is actually interesting. So when you coach someone, you do the same as I do. Like, we both do like 4 hours a day, right?
Yeah, 4 hours. So usually two 2-hour sessions, yeah.
Yeah, so how many opens does your student do in a 2-hour session?
It really depends. Like, I'll be trying to throw them in a lot. I mean, minimum 10, probably more at the beginning, because what's going to happen is maybe their stop is shit, or they just run out of things to say, so the conversations are like two minutes long. But really, minimum 10 in 2 hours. It can be 20.
Yeah.
But for a sustainable, long-term guy that's kind of learning this himself, rather than saying, right, go and aim to do 10 a day every day, which just isn't feasible for most people. Aim to do 3 or 4 a day situation if you can do that.
Yes.
What about yourself? Like, when you take guys out, what are you trying to get them to do?
I try to keep it. I try to do a 10, but I
10
try
in,
to
10
not,
in 2 hours.
Yeah, and I try to not go too much over 10.
Right.
Because I've learned. So the more you coach, the more you learn small things you can change in the way you coach to give students better results. And I've noticed if they do a lot more than 10, they get tired. and they become like a bit robotic.
Well, it's mentally quite tiring, isn't it? When you're really on the ball and you're really putting an effort and you're trying to make it specific to the girl. So you look good. What I notice is X, Y, Z, and then she's giving the topic, and then you're pivoting on that topic. It is a fucking it's mentally exhausting for guys that aren't used to it. It's like improv in the street. You have to be in the moment. You have to be focused. If you turn into a robot just going through the motions, you're going to get the same response, which is just blown out, right?
Yeah, and especially in the beginning, when you coach guys for the first days, you have to do more demos, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
And I had this, the same way I coached in Portugal. I have experimented with doing one demo for every 3 sets a student does. Now I moved to one demo for every 2 sets a student does.
Right.
And this guy in Portugal one day is like, "You're having too much fun.
Really?
You're like doing too good. Like you should do like demos."
He was saying that to
and
you.
He says you.
He got pissed off.
Yeah, he said, "I don't want you to do demos anymore."
Why?
Because like I'm getting like numbers and everything.
Oh no, it annoyed him. So it wasn't inspirational. It's almost like a fuck. He took it as a fuck you.
Yeah. So
that's a weird way to interpret it.
Yeah,
though.
but I told him like, "You want me to do the demo?" I was like, "No, not right now." And a few days later, he says, "Dude, like when you said that you should actually do the demos, like you were right, and I didn't listen, and I couldn't do anything, like because I explained him, but he said no, like I'm not gonna say no, you're gonna do demos. I'm gonna be he's gonna view you as like a piece of shit person."
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, about 25 sets a week. When you're learning and when you go through the process of coaching, you do at least 20 and 25 a day. And even when I stretch, like sometimes I'll stretch out coaching over more days. Like people do like 1 session a day, if just schedule kind of allows it sometimes. And they would usually still do an extra session a day. Like we would do 2 hours together. They would do 2 hours on their own and still do 20, 25 a day.
And when you go to a new place now, how do you? We were having this conversation as well because we've done this for a while. We know what we should be doing because we're consciously aware of it. But there's almost this, not anxiety, but apathy. When you get to a new place, you're kind of like, well, how do I, so, maybe guys that are in this position of, you get to a new place, you have no leads, you have to put in the numbers, but you almost have this kind of resistance of just like, I can't be fucking asked, even though you need to do that. Do you have any kind of personal tricks that you use to overcome? Do you try to maybe not pressure yourself for the first few days, or do you try and pressure yourself the first?
I will do the first set on the first day, right?
Straight away,
like
as soon as you can.
Usually that will happen. I'll try to do it on my way from the airport to the Airbnb.
Okay, in the Uber. Stop! Fucking jump out the window.
Yeah, like I'll do like one, and then I'm okay. I did this.
So you know what though? The airport one is actually a really good one to do, because even if it's going fucking nowhere, you've probably seen a hot girl on the plane that's coming with you, and maybe she's landing in the airport and she's in the same city. So it kind of makes sense. I think the mistake is actually trying to approach on the plane. You don't need to do that because it's like, oh, where'd you go from that? It makes it awkward. For me, it's like, wait till they go to the luggage, and then just they're leaving, be like, hey, look, I saw you on the plane. I had to say hello. I thought you looked good. See her reaction. And it doesn't matter about the result. It's just to do the first thing. And that's on a macro level. On a micro level, I'd recommend guys, every second, every time you walk out that front door, just switch on and just realize the first 1 or 2 approaches of the day, they're always the hardest ones. Yeah. And they're always the ones that are going to determine how the day plays out. Because I find the quicker you can get that first one done, the easier it becomes basically to then continue that momentum.
So that's the first thing you do. And after that, usually I go out the next day. I maybe won't do 10. But I'll still do some sets just to
get yourself going.
Get myself going, like maybe do like 5, and the next day, boom, go do 10 and have some fun and get some dates going, or like really get the feel, because it's really important to get as many sets. I'm still struggling with this. To get as many sets in as possible in the first few days,
right? So
that you have numbers to work with.
Yeah, because you start questioning, especially if you're on your own, and if you're guys that are, traveling, and maybe you're doing the digital nomad thing a bit more, like most people are doing, because you can work remotely. It is easy if you're gaming on your own to get in your own head. You start questioning whether it works. You start like questioning yourself. Like you have this existential crisis, and really what you need to do is shut the fuck up. Tell your brain to shut the fuck up and just go and talk to some other human beings. Because we've talked about this before as a joke, but usually 99% of problems can be solved in game simply by speaking to more women, giving yourself more options, and not overthinking shit. Not sitting there blanking on a Friday night going, I fucking suck with everything. It's getting out and just making something happen. And even if you get blown out a bit, it's just realizing it's part of the process, right?
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Cool.
What do we have there?
Any
a
other
lot of questions.
Any other questions? Girls are still horny. That's not a question.
That was about London.
Yeah, it was before. How do you overcome mental blocks, barriers, and give a good vibe? Any tips? I mean, the question's not really very clear, is it? I mean, mental barriers, presumably with approaching mental blocks. Like we said, if you can't do this on your own, and we've always said this before, listen back to the previous podcast that I released on SoundCloud, interviewing St. Robert, not interviewing, but discussing a few topics in common. One of the big things is if you can't get up to the stage of doing 25 to 30 approaches by yourself a week, you need help. It's that simple, right?
That's it.
And even if you can do 30 approaches a week, but you're getting on no dates and you're doing that consistently for months, you need help. And most guys we know, or most guys I know that are successful, they've gone to a coach, right? Because it saves you time, gives you a step-by-step process, points out blind spots. It's just, if you think about time being your most valuable asset, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, there are guys who, there are two reasons why guys try to make it on their own when they keep struggling.
Right.
I'm totally fine with guys making it on their own if they actually succeed in a short time. Like, let's say, if you found out about Daygame more than 6 months ago and you're not getting laid left and right, then something's wrong. And there are two reasons I've found why guys try to make it on their own. One is they can't afford to get help, and that's I understand that. To them, I just suggest like a budget version, like get a Skype coaching call or whatever.
Yeah.
But one thing is like not being really able to afford it, and that's one thing. And if you come from like a poor country, that's fine. But if you live in EU or US, or then you can afford it, then it's just a matter of choice. But the other reason is it's ego. They want to make it on their own, and they keep. I've seen guys who keep struggling for 2,000 sets, 1,500 sets on their own. And they struggle, and at one point they're like, okay, I had this guy who joined me for the trip when we went here to Mexico, and he had done 2,000 sets, I think. He had some success, like one layout of 150 opens, something like that.
Oh man,
he came here.
That's so demoralizing, though.
That guy banged 2 chicks in one day.
And but because he worked with you and because you kind of pointed out his blind spots and gave him some direction.
And that guy wanted to make it. It was important for him to make it on his own, and it was an ego thing. But as soon as he fixed that and he came over and boom, it was good. Problem solved.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point. Ego I mean, like most things in life, it stops us succeeding because we feel we have to do it ourselves. But like any skill set in life, if you're not good at it, go to an expert and get them to teach you. I mean, it's
and another thing about overcoming mental blocks and barriers. So one thing is if you can't do that on your own, then get help. But if you wanna kind of do it on your own, then if you watch someone's videos, like maybe they watch your videos, maybe they watch my videos, like listen to your podcast, my podcast, whatever it is, maybe they're watching this. So the most important thing is whatever, like if they watch you, like what they say, what do you say? They have to fucking do the thing. Or if they watch me, like do the thing that Robert said, and that's it. Don't try to listen to 10 different guys and find something that fits your beliefs.
That's a really good point.
You follow someone,
that's a really good point.
And this is the big thing in our industry. Like there are a lot of guys that talk, but there are very few guys that can deliver the results to their students when coaching. Like there are guys who make really flashy content, but when students come over, they just either don't get laid or not even get laid. They don't get dates, don't get any results, and so how do you have to figure out who you're listening to, and if you're watching someone. And how do you figure out who to listen to? If you see someone put out free content, let's say you're mine free content, we both put out a lot of free content, and you learn something from the content that teaches you something, and you're like, oh, this actually helped me, and that helped you feel better about yourself, but overcome one problem in your game, like really overcome, maybe do more sets, maybe like fix one problem in your day game set, whatever it is. If the free stuff fix one small problem, then you can go and, okay, this guy knows what he's doing. You then get either, like everyone has their like, oh, sign up for the mailing list to get this PDF, yeah, or whatever. Do that thing. See how that thing works. Oh, this shit worked too. Get a coaching call or something like that. Like start slow. Don't just jump in any flashy offer that you see. Do the homework and figure out whether the person you're listening to actually can deliver what they promise they can deliver, And that is a big problem when you try to overcome your mental blocks, barriers, and everything. Is guys just listen to a lot of YouTube channels and they just try to find one that fits their existing agenda.
Yeah, that's
beliefs.
a really, really good point. If you're not good looking or don't have the best physique, is it even worth approaching hot girls?
I mean, look at me. I'm a very average looking dude. I've done a lot with my style.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between being good looking and looking good though, right? You can be traditionally good looking, but you look like shit if you dress shit or if your style's not on point. Yeah, I think you look good because you've got this image, right?
Basically, you would be like a traditional good looking guy, and I would be a guy that looks good.
Yeah.
With like, I have decent like things from the nature, but what do you do with that is more important. But okay, there are guys that will look at me and they'll say, Saint Robert is so handsome. Oh my God, like I see how this works for him.
Mm-hmm.
But there are guys who really do look worse. Maybe they're overweight, maybe they're really short or some other problems. Or like bad style. Okay, bad style is one thing guys have to fix and it's easy and cheap to fix. Yeah. I actually fix one of the first things I look at before working with someone.
Mm-hmm.
I'll go through their Instagram and Facebook and make sure whether they need a stylist, and I'll set them up with my stylist if they need to.
That's good.
But
I agree.
From the perspective of results guys get based on their looks, like if you think about guys that were like maybe not in their like late 20s, early 30s, like who were older or younger or dressed really bad or were overweight, like how much difference do you see in the results they get?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I've done lots of fucking podcasts on this, but again, the difference between being good looking and looking good, you can have a facially ugly guy who looks shit hot because his physique's on point and his style is fucking on point. I know guys like that, like that, and okay, their face isn't the best, but their haircut's great, their stubble's great, they've got some cool kind of designer tattoos or whatever, and they look fucking good. They've got really good personal branding. They've developed their social skills, charisma, i.e. they've learned game. They've got their finance on point. They have all these other things on point, and so they have massive amounts of value. And yeah, they get laid like rock stars. So I think it's very easy to get caught up in the first thing people notice, which is the looks and the physique. And obviously, I'm very much of the mindset, if you can change something and maximize it, do it. Apart from really your face, everything, and maybe your height. I know some guy that recently just had an operation to make him actually taller, but that's not normal. Apart from your height and your face, you can pretty much change everything you want in your life, right? So your fashion, your finances, your fitness, your style, all this stuff. You learn game, it's learned charisma, it's learned social skills. So it's absolutely worth approaching the hottest girls. You only live once. If you're going to be approaching, why the fuck settle for approaching, quote unquote, the sixes when you could be approaching the nines? I don't get it. Because if you're going to, most people hate approaching, right? Most people think approaching sucks. If you're going to put yourself into an activity that sucks, make sure you're putting yourself into an activity where you can reap the maximum reward, right? So yeah, I absolutely think it is worth approaching the hottest girls. That being said, you do need value. When you approach girls, there is kind of like a value exchange, and the girl will obviously see what you look like, see your style, blah, blah, blah. But also, she's going to understand behind that, how many languages can you speak? How much money do you earn? How much of an interesting life do you live? Because she's going to jump into your reality if she starts seeing you. All these factors you need to work on. So it's a very kind of, I guess, in-depth kind of topic, isn't it? Sexual.
Yeah, but it's actually exactly what we spoke about yesterday. So when should you focus on your improving your looks and building your business and whatever, and when should you instead only focus on improving your game? And I think this question is kind of about that. So if someone asks, so I'm not the best looking guy, so should I improve my looks or should I improve my game? And the answer is definitely 100%. Well, of course, like if it's cheap and easy to fix, and it usually is, do whatever you can, but your 90% of what you focus on should be improving your game, learning game, instead of like saying I'll get ripped and change my style and then I will learn the game. That's bullshit. That's just.
I mean, it's avoidance, right?
Yeah.
But you can do, a lot of guys, they think this idea, you have to do one thing. It's, Napoleon was super successful in battle because he focused on one thing, he didn't multitask. But this isn't multitasking where you're doing lots of different things in the moment. You're not approaching girls at the same time, trying to be in the gym. Maybe you are doing both, but you can segment your life up and compartmentalize where you work on different areas at the same time. I think it's always, you've just got to start learning game as soon as you can. You've got to start learning to be more emotionally and socially intelligent and basically interact with women. And the sooner you do that, the better. This guy that asked the question, Mr. Ghosh, I know for a fact he's young. I think only 17, 18. So to answer your question, really, you should be, you should be out there approaching now, but also working on these other areas. Yeah, I mean, is there a point where you think, I mean, for me, I know personally, from my experience, actually, I didn't work on the other stuff. I was really focused on game to the point of neglecting the other shit. And I knew I had an issue where I was going on like maybe 4 or 5 dates on a Sunday, but girls were asking me, oh, James, so what do you do in your spare time? And all I could think of was actually all I do is run around the street talking to women, which is fucking sad. And that's not a healthy existence, right? Yeah. So I knew at that point when I was lying about and I was making up stuff I did in my spare time, I had a fucking issue. And eventually we want to get to the stage where we've integrated this as a kind of a lifestyle thing. And so you've got the approaching handle, because you know if you go out, you approach 20 to 30 girls a week, that's going to generate you a couple of dates a week. And that's that area of your life kind of like, okay. And then it's like, right, what are the other bits you need to focus on? But what would you say to, a guy who's maybe like, in this dilemma, maybe he's just started Daygame and he's like, well, okay, shit, do I need to be building all my SMB at the same time? Should I be focusing on Daygame? What period? Yeah, what would your thoughts be?
I would say, dude, go the fuck out. Go out a lot. Don't worry about... I would, like, if you have to make a choice between anything, like working on anything else or Daygame, I would say definitely focus on Daygame.
To start.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think we can look at Daygamer's evolution as several phases. Let's say the first phase is someone who's trying to overcome approach anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're maybe have done the first set, maybe haven't. And so the biggest struggle is to just not be scared to open girls. And then that's number one. And number two, I would say phase 2 is getting to your first few lays. Mm-hmm. Not the first lay, first few lays. Then next one would be getting laid regularly.
Well, I think as well in between that, it'd be actually get some numbers that don't flake and get on a date. Because that was a big thing for me, actually getting numbers and going on a date. And then, taking a girl home from a date. I was like, fuck,
you can have that in the middle.
This is actually possible.
Yes.
Because that's a big thing. Because lots of guys will go out and they'll be charging on the street getting numbers, but they haven't got laid from it. And they're thinking, is it really possible? So as you said.
Because they're making mistakes in their sets, and there are cities where it's really easy to get numbers, but those numbers don't go anywhere.
It doesn't mean shit. I remember the day when I started off, and I was like, "Oh my god, I got a phone number!" But you soon realise after a few weeks, getting a phone number means absolutely fucking nothing. Yeah. Right.
I mean, if you're a good-looking dude and have a lot of stuff going on in your life and are like your communication skills are really good, you'll get laid, but it's going to be like 1 out of 150 girls.
It's still not good ratio,
So I think once you get to getting laid regularly, the next big thing, and this is what actually Tom told me when I met Tom Pereira when he interviewed me on his podcast. He said me one thing. Back then I was Daygaming mostly in Riga, and he just said, dude, go to other cities. And once you start getting laid in other cities, then we'll talk. Like then you can actually, that shows that you're really good. And once you reach the phase where you can go to a new city, get a few regulars, and I think that's the point where you can say, okay, enough running around chasing tail. Let's work on some other shit in my life. Like,
well, and I think you realise as well that you are still. It's great to kind of see girls and obviously add stuff to your life, but you are still the same guy, right? So, I got into this thinking, I'm going to fuck loads of hot women. It's going to solve all my life fucking problems. Lo and behold, I did sleep with some good-looking girls, had some cool experiences, but it hasn't solved any life problems. I'm still the same guy after that, right? So it's almost a bit of a distraction in a way, right? It's a false prophecy. Yeah. And you need to have this area of your life fixed. Obviously, you need to be able to date women, but you realise, shit, you've got other problems. You're still the same dude. You have to figure out your own fucking demons, insecurities, where you want to go in life. You have a limited time on planet Earth. What do you want to do with that fucking time? And sleeping with a few hot chicks is not going to solve that problem.
That is nice.
Yeah, I like it.
It's amazing.
Very philosophical.
And I think it's like the first thing guys have to fix.
Yeah.
Because that is the biggest fear. That's like if you gonna dig down about the biggest urges guys have, it is to bang those hotties. Yeah. And that's why I coach Daygame. Honestly, that's why I do it. That's why I started doing it. Because for me, it
forces you to do it as well.
it's not, for me, it's not even about getting laid. For me, it's about figuring out what it is you actually want in life, believing in that, and then going and chasing that. And when you get a guy who's learning Daygame and he sees that he starts getting laid with hotties, all of a sudden he pauses and he asks, wait,
what else am I doing in life?
What else can I do in my life?
Because that is the big barrier in the way of everything, isn't it? Right?
That was the big thing they wanted. And once they solve it, they're like, oh my God, this was this big thing I didn't know I could solve it. So what other big things I can solve in my life? And then they're starting building businesses, they start traveling.
It opens the floodgates, doesn't it?
Yes, and that's actually the way I do it. I don't care about the guys getting laid, I care about what happens after they get laid.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I'm just going to run for a piss, but maybe answer this question.
Which one?
From Trinidad. Your preferences on the best countries to game in? I mean, it's obviously going to vary from individual to individual, but...
So the best countries to game, I think number one best country is the country you're at. But it really depends on what is your level of game. If you are starting out, I would say if you have less than 10 day game days, I would stick to easy day game countries. I would go to Prague, honestly, Prague, Poland, if you were in Europe. I would definitely go to Prague and Poland just because they are a bit easier to day game. And when you are learning game and want to improve your game, if you go to a tough place, like let's say you go to New York City or you go to Belgrade, Serbia, what will happen is you will get many blowouts, and all you get to practice while you are in the country is the opening and maybe stacking and getting a topic. Whereas if you go to an easier city like Prague or Poland, what you get is you can practice not only your opening and stacking, but you practice all parts of the day game conversation. And for learning, that is really, really important. That's why I actually prefer guys learn in easier cities, even when they live in tough day game cities. So if you're just starting out, Prague, Poland, and if you're already getting laid, if you have, let's say, more than 10 lays, then seriously figure out what is your type, what's the hottest chick what's the hottest type for you, and maybe that's Russian or Ukrainian, maybe that's going to places like Brazil or Mexico where girls are completely different. So if you're learning, start with easier cities. If you're already good, then go where the hottest girls are, regardless of, like, don't worry about anything else. Look what you who you wanna bang.
And for you on a personal level, where would you say your favorite cities are? Or did you just answer that?
Yeah, for me, I want to keep Russia. For me, it's Russia. I want to go to Russia. That's number one country for me on the list. And I also speak Russian, so...
You're absolutely sorted because you speak Russian.
Oh yeah, like my Russian, like I can game easily and do dates and everything in Russian because it's like third language for me, and I've been speaking it or understanding it since I was a child. So number one place, Russia. And the next is I want to explore other places in this part of the world. So under USA, I want to check out other places in Mexico. Definitely the bigger cities like Guadalajara is I want to really check out that. And next winter, I'll go to Argentina or Colombia.
Yeah, I think Argentina is an interesting one because I do think you need Spanish for that. But the women are smoking, I'd say, second only in South America to Venezuelan women. I have a personal fetish for Brazil. Like, I just fucking love the place. It's just something about it.
The guy is saying we're missing 2 points. One is the region where you're gaming, and second, time. Western Europe is a lot more difficult than East Europe or South America. I would say it's the other way around.
Yeah, I mean...
Western Europe to me seems easier than...
I kind of understand what he means because there's a few dub places which I always, having gone there and game myself and also taken students there, that I consistently have issues with, which are, for me, Denmark, Germany and Romania. I don't rate them as you might disagree, but I don't personally rate them as places.
I think don't know about Germany, but...
Yeah, they're quite tricky. I find them tricky. I find that I've struggled there to do much damage. I find students I've taken there have struggled to do much damage. So those countries in Western Europe, I agree. Eastern Europe and South America, I mean, yeah, Germany actually, I'd say it's quite easy to get laid in South America. You know, Colombia, Brazil, girls are pretty promiscuous. Eastern Europe as well. I mean,
Eastern Europe, it's tricky. Like, it depends on if you go to Prague and you catch Russian solo travelers who are there to party, yes, they're the easiest people to get laid with if you have decent game. If you're just starting out, you're still going to struggle.
It's such a, because they love the dating process, Russian women as well. So it's so true. When you get quite an adventurous one who's traveling on her own, you stop her. They're so easy to talk to. They're so easy to go on dates and go through. They want to go through that dating process. They love dating as a general thing. So I'd say to Jürgen, I'm not sure what your kind of. Oh shit! No, we don't want to do that. I was just going to say, where you. I mean, you sound like you're German, maybe actually. Jürgen, it's a German name.
I think it's Swedish.
Swedish, maybe. Yeah, I'd say it all depends, man. I mean, it depends what your level is, depends what your experience is. I mean, easiest place in the world if you're a white dude is Southeast Asia. I mean, if you really want to get the numbers up, you can go to Thailand or Philippines and sleep with 4 or 5 girls a day.
So I think the Western, Eastern Europe discussion, if it depends on your game. So if you are learning, let's say if you have less than 30 Daygame lays, I think you're gonna get laid easier in Western Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas and you're gonna struggle in Eastern Europe because you're gonna fail all the Russian shit tests and everything.
Because they challenge guys. Oh, he's Dutch. Okay. Well, listening, I like it. Yeah, good interaction. Netherlands is not easy, just to interrupt some Robert. I find Netherlands is quite a tough place, and also the dating culture is weird, and I see a lot of Dutch guys complaining about Dutch women.
Amsterdam.
Apart from Amsterdam, yeah.
I've heard very many good things about Amsterdam, about not tourists in Amsterdam, but locals in Amsterdam.
Oh, interesting.
I've had guys from Antwerp go regularly to Amsterdam to game there and bang chicks, and they guys from Antwerp would have regulars in Amsterdam, and the chicks would come over to Antwerp or they would go over to Amsterdam. So, but I have no idea about other places in Netherlands.
Yeah, I've just heard a lot of Dutch guys complaining about Dutch women because they're quite masculine, they say. They're quite flaky. And I've heard of other guys from outside of the Netherlands who go to the Netherlands who say a similar thing. Maybe Amsterdam's a bit different because it's kind of a bit like a London. It's an international kind of hub, isn't it, of places. Although they're talking about changing the coffee shop laws, which will probably drop tourism by a lot.
Yes,
that will kill it, right? If they only allow locals in the coffee shops, it's going to take away a lot of the appeal.
Yeah.
It's a good question from Troy. If Daygame hasn't changed you as a person, has it changed any of your perspectives, views of relationships, love, women, etc.? Well, I guess it's a two-part question, but Daygame has definitely changed me as a person. It's made me more outgoing. It's made me more socially and emotionally intelligent. It's allowed me to, as St. Robert says, look at other things in life and realize that just dating women is not the be-all and end-all. It's not going to solve all your problems. Actually, it just kind of opens a Pandora's box of like all this other shit you were ignoring. Now you've got to address it. So it's changed my perspective massively. It's made it hard for me to kind of think about, I guess, getting married and settling down with one person.
Yeah, it's hard. It definitely makes that thing harder
because you have options, right? And you realize there's many fish in the sea.
That's one thing. And the other thing is you've seen things and you've met girls that had boyfriends and husbands and you've been the guy.
That's a good point.
They come over to bang and you know that the husband or boyfriend you'll never find out.
Yeah, that's so true.
They would come over during their lunch break and like 5 minutes of intro you would bang them, they'd go back to work and that is definitely tough. So I think there is a point in any Daygamer's career, let's call it like that, where they have to kind of ask, where do you want to go next? And I think that the point is like 50 Daygame lays, I think, is where you should like, maybe like even 30, 30 to 50. I think good Daygamer starts from 30 Daygame lays with decent open to lay ratio. So at that point, with 30 to 50 Daygame lays, you have to ask yourself, okay, I did this, what else do I want in my life?
Yeah, and your perspective changed as well. Again, like when I came into this for the first few years, I would not go past a third date with a girl. And I look back and go, what the fuck was I doing? Like I met some really cool girls, like we really got on, but I had this idea that I want to get out there and learn the skill set and be successful. I was obsessed with like just putting in the numbers. And now it's very different. It's very much about, I'm not fussed about that. I much prefer to go somewhere, meet a couple of cool girls and just almost have that, you date them for periods of time. So your perspectives change. How do you get out of, how do you maybe, having seen the other side of the coin where you see shit like you're sleeping with a girl with a boyfriend, how does that affect your image of maybe in future wanting to be with one girl? Has that fucked it up forever? Is there a way of kind of
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think it has fucked up. I had this conversation with Mark Zolo from Naughty Nomad in my podcast,
Right.
because he also said that
Is he settled down now?
he's. Wait, I'll have to think about.
How do you
I
feel?
think the best thing, because I don't remember what he said in a podcast and what he said kind of like off the mic.
Right,
So I think
sure.
the best thing would be like if anyone wants to hear his opinions, to listen to the podcast. But he is in a relationship right now,
Right.
and that's as far as I remember. He said it on a podcast. But speaking, and he did share his opinions. What he thinks is like how has he changed his views on what girl he would pick as a wife or as like a life partner. And for me, I just have come to. Once you've seen those things, you understand that you just have to accept the reality of life, that maybe they will sometimes cheat on you, but
It's
you'll
not.
never know.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think it's about women being bitches or anything. It's just women are human, and human nature is always looking to get that bigger and better thing because it's based on evolution. And if a woman is around a very high value man, it doesn't matter about you. It's nothing personal. She's just attracted to him. And some girls, in the right moment, the right circumstances, are going to act on that. Some girls won't. They'll feel like they want to, but they won't. So, and as you said, you're never going to fucking know.
I want to answer the question, man.
Which one?
Andrew says it's a journey, not the destination. So it seems that chasing numbers is not a bad thing in the beginning. Dude, don't get us wrong. Still, the most important thing in Daygame is to bang hot chicks. We're not saying you should go out and build value at all. We're still saying the best thing you can do is bang hotties. So, yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the goal hasn't changed. It just maybe the things that have changed is what happens after a few times you sleep with a girl.
Yeah, I think he has a point as well, though, that you should be. One thing I made the mistake of doing when I was going through the first 2 years of this and just basically just sleeping with a girl and then just out on the next one is actually I wasn't really appreciating the time I was spending with the girls because actually in hindsight they were still really cool people.
Yeah.
So it's easy to get confused. It's easy to kind of look past and always be looking to the next thing. But also, yeah, enjoy the journey, of course, like the highs, the lows. It's kind of that amor fati thing of take it all in your stride and always be looking to improve. But that's the addictive thing about this whole journey is you get a lot of no's in Daygame, you get a lot of failures, and I guess like gambling, you get those wins, and that's what keeps you interested, right? If it was all winning, you wouldn't be interested. If it was all losing, you wouldn't be interested. But because it's a bit of both,
It's addictive.
it's addictive,
Very addictive.
and so enjoy the process as well. And if you are on a cool date with a girl, just enjoy the fact on a date. Obviously, in the back of your brain, you're thinking, right, what do I need to do to get physical with her? Because that is, I guess, the end goal. But be enjoying the fact, like, if she's telling a cool story or you're telling a cool story and you're sitting in some fucking amazing place with the sun setting and the beach, like, enjoy that moment in your life because life is happening every fucking second and one day the lights go out and that's the end of it. So, yeah, don't always be thinking of the next. Just be enjoying the process as you go. But as St. Robert says, yes, you still want goals with this. Like, if you're getting loads of fucking failure stories and no success, you've got to like kind of look at what you're doing, and it might be enjoyable to a degree, but you've just got to be thinking, right, how do I get better?
That's what happened in after the mushroom trip. I started enjoying dates more. I started.
Yeah, just actually appreciating the fact it's another human being, and like, okay, it's cool to bang her, but yeah, you're just having a cool experience. You met her on the fucking like in a fucking foreign country. She's from a foreign place. There's a moment of time where you guys are coming together, and it's not about sounding too hippie. It's just a cool fucking experience. And you share some cool emotions either way, and hopefully there's some sexual part to that. And if there is, great. And if there's not, you know what? Fuck it. There's always another girl. There's always another girl who's going to be better suited to you, right?
Yeah.
So it's a balance.
That's the thing about traveling in general. You can sit in your lovely country in your lockdown and.
Fuck, it's boring, man. I don't know. I don't know. Now that I've done this lifestyle for 3 or 4 years, I don't know how people sit. How do people do that? Just sit in one place for like years on end, and they're like, all they've got to worry about is how much milk they're having in their fucking coffee that morning, and the same process for 30 years, going into the same arsehole boss, the same shit, the same spreadsheets, spending their money on the same shit, going to the same bar to get drunk, having the same arguments with their long-term partner they're not really into. Like, what the fuck is this?
That's what I actually suggest, like, to a lot of guys.
What, to do that lifestyle?
No.
It's like the anti.
Like, how do I like become more interesting and like
travel?
Yeah, just like pull the trigger. Like go online, book the flights, go somewhere, wherever that is. And I mean, there are places that are open right now. Mexico is open to anyone. Like you can come, even from UK, you can come to Mexico. Like no one cares.
No PCR tests needed, I
Yeah.
believe, until the 26th of Jan. That's when they changed their rule. But yeah, as you say, like the coolest experiences I've had, and I think you're probably the same, have been the last 3 or 4 years traveling the world, where you're just like, fuck me, like this. You look back and it's almost like becomes normal because we do it a lot. But you look back and you're like, what the fuck? Like that was
Do
crazy.
you have like a place in London where you live?
Yeah, there is. I'm renting a place long term, and I've got a stake of a
Because
flat
I'm
as
like a
well.
homeless guy. I
Yeah.
go back to Riga and I rent an Airbnb there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I find the problem with doing that though is it's fucking expensive. Airbnb is a fucking gangster
London,
hustle.
yeah.
But anywhere, because they have the fucking price per night, but then there's a service fee and a cleaning fee and all this fucking shit.
The last time we went to Riga, I just posted on Facebook like, "Hey, I'm looking for an Airbnb."
Ah,
and
that's
get a place
clever.
for like.
And you get a
cheap.
discounted
Like,
place.
I got a place on a main square in Riga.
Yeah,
I would like overlooking the main square for like nothing.
yeah.
With friends, and that was amazing.
On that note, because I'd like to go to Riga and game there, when is the best time of year to go?
The only month that I'm really gonna spend in Riga this year is from end of May to end of June.
Right, okay.
That is the best time because our high schools and universities end May, kind of early July,
Right.
because they still have exams and everything. So the hot girls, the young hot girls, like the last years of high school and university girls, they're still in Riga until mid to late June. And then they oftentimes leave to where they are originally from, like the smaller towns, and Riga becomes much emptier. So I'd say, yeah, late May to late June. And we also have this midsummer solstice thing.
I heard about this.
Man, you have like, if you're in Riga, then like join us.
It's like a crazy party.
It's like a beautiful nature thing where Riga is empty.
Really?
Everyone
goes out.
rents houses and whatever. Like some people just go camping by lakes, by rivers, in forests. Everyone.
Sounds
Riga is
amazing.
empty. Everyone's out by the nature, and you can't go to sleep before the sun rises.
Is that the rule? Okay.
And everyone's just out by the nature, having their fun, drinking beer, like grilling meat.
That's cool.
It's amazing.
I like the sound of that. You had me at the grilling meat part. I'm
Dude,
like,
it's
fuck.
amazing. Like, we do this with our friends, and lately we've had guys from abroad join us. Like a Daygamer wing of mine from Lithuania joins us every year.
Nice.
Yeah, and I have like this year I think I'll have several guys join us for that thing.
That's amazing.
From all over the world. So
And that's mid June.
That's June 23rd. I think.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
that sounds
if
great.
You have to come. Just
Yeah.
hit me up. I'll be there, and you can join us.
That sounds fucking cool. I can do some approaches when I go out with my wings, but it's almost impossible for me to go out solo and do any approaches. Any suggestions how to improve solo game and reduce dependence on wings? Yeah, so really good question from Amit. For me personally, I prefer to be out with a wing. I find it more fun if you can have that banter. But this is a solo sport. At the end of the day, you have to be able to approach sober on your own. And a true test, I believe, of your approach anxiety level is when you're not thinking about this stuff and you see a really hot girl and you're on your own, the weather's shit, you're hungover, and how much anxiety do you feel? That's a real test of it, because obviously when you're with people, it masks it. So the best way I'd suggest to do it would be go out with wings, and then, if you know you're going to go and meet a wing, try and aim for 1 or 2 approaches before, knowing that you've got the safety net of the wing, and afterwards try and aim for 1 or 2 approaches as well and build it up that way. And then situationally, just aim for maybe 1 a day for 7 days. And once you do that, go, right, I'm going to go another 1 a day for 7 days. Just situationally as you're going around your day on the way to the coffee shop, at the gym. Once you've nailed that for maybe 2-3 weeks, build it up to 2 a day situationally. And eventually what you should be able to do is get up to 3 or 4 approaches a day, and you've just staged up the process, and that's what you need to be doing. That's 28 approaches a week. That's what you need to be doing. And then maybe 1 longer session on the weekend as well with a wing. That's kind of how I do it, and that's how I did it. That's how I kind of taught myself to do it, and that's how I would recommend you to do it, because I think it's an effective way. And that's the focus of the 10-week approach accelerator program I run, is basically getting guys up to doing 3 or 4 a day. So it's like just kind of integrated into your, it's an atomic habit, right? It becomes part of your lifestyle. Have you got any tips on that? Because you do a bit of both, right? You don't mind if you're on your own, you don't mind if you're with people, you're both.
Yeah, I do mostly solo day game.
Really? So majority solo?
Yeah, because I will go out with guys that I've coached a long time ago.
Right.
And now they've done a lot of game on their own, and they've come to that level where they know how it is when other people ask you annoying questions about their game.
So they've
learned they shouldn't do that.
Well, the number one rule about going out and doing Daygame with a wing is don't talk about Daygame. Talk about fun shit that isn't Daygame, and you're in a good state, and then you're like going to be more likely to approach and smiley and all this shit.
Yeah, so for me, because let me simply explain why my opinion on this is legit.
Sure.
When I started going out, I would go out and I was like, oh, I'm going to do my first day game approach. And I walked around for 2 hours and I didn't do it.
We've all been there.
I went out for the next day, 2 hours, didn't do it. And I went out like this almost every day for almost like around 2 hours every day for 2 weeks.
Right.
Until I did my first ever day game approach.
Was it super frustrating for in that 2 weeks, or was it?
No, I just couldn't overcome my fear.
It was just
so
massive
scared.
anxiety.
Oh my God, I had massive anxiety. So what I learned, and I started doing the same with guys that kind of are part of my community, and I started giving tips on the same thing. So the thing you do is you go out and you do one approach.
Right.
You set the goal of doing one approach. You did it, get the fuck, like go home, like and celebrate it. Go home, celebrate it.
So start with just one approach.
Yeah. Next day, go out. Do one approach, and if you don't do it, don't worry about it. Go out next day, do one approach. Like don't set high goals, and maybe like do 5 days in a row where you do like maybe in the first week you'll do like one approach, then you take a day off, then you do one approach, a day off, one approach, and then maybe next week you'll say, okay, like this week I'm gonna do like one approach a day, and that's it for 7 days in a row. If you didn't do it that week, set the same goal for the next week. Try to do like one approach a day for 7 days in a row. Okay, you did that. Now try to have whatever happens in the other days, try to have one day where you did 5 sets in one day. So you go from 7 in a week to like a week where you did 5 in one day, and then kind of slowly build up. So and the really important thing is guys are really, really good at like knowing how they fucked up and how bad they are, but they're pretty bad at knowing how they succeeded and what were the really good things they did.
Right.
So what they have to do that's really, really important, focus on the positives. You have to learn to focus on your wins rather than the ways you fucked up. And the way I do that, because I'm really good at negative self-talk, I'm like an expert of it.
I think I am as well. I think we share that in common. I think most human nature is to always urge on the side of the negative, right? He's just touching me up. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Human nature is to err on the side of the negative. I guess it's a survival thing.
Yes.
And we're bringing that forward into the modern world where actually we don't need it because we're not dying.
And so I found a really simple drill for myself. I have a alarm, a reminder for myself every morning. Like I try to go to bed if I'm not partying or doing anything like around 10.
Right.
So I have an alarm at 9:45.
God, you sleep for a long time. That's a fucking long time.
10 hours.
Yeah, shit, that's crazy.
My Oura Ring likes it. And I have an alarm that just says no. Sorry, you misunderstood me. So I go to bed at around 10.
Right.
Before that, 15 minutes before I go to bed, I have a reminder.
Right.
That says, "How did you succeed today?"
Right. Okay. So it's almost like a gratitude.
Yes, and I'm forcing myself to come up with 3 ways I succeeded that day. And you sometimes have those days when, oh, I'm just gonna go to the store. I'm gonna get like fucking crisps, and I'm gonna get like junk food and watch Netflix all day.
And sit there being a self-pitying.
Yeah, and you do that all day. And I do have those days. Everyone has those days. And what I would do is that night, I have a little alarm, and I would come up with 3 ways I succeeded that day. It's like one of them sometimes would be, well, I'll let myself be a piece of shit for one day. And like, I didn't judge myself for that too much. So it's really important when it comes to overcoming approach anxiety on your own, when you do it slow and step by step, instead of saying, oh, I didn't do 10 approaches this week, I didn't do 25 this week. Instead, you just say, oh, I did 1. That's a fucking celebration. Go have some tacos to celebrate.
That's a really good idea. And I like the way, again, similar to what I said, of building it up slowly but surely. Far better to be the tortoise than the hare. Far better to consistently get to one approach for, say, 2-3 weeks, and then go 2 approaches for 2-3 weeks and build it up that way. Because, if you can consistently approach 2 or 3, 4 a day, you're sorted. You're going to get there, right?
Yep.
And people just want this because we live in a quick fix culture. They instantly want, okay, fuck, I need to be approaching 30 a week. But if you haven't approached at all, that's not realistic to begin, unless you're getting coached, and we're fucking forcing you.
Yep.
What else we got here? How old are you, by the way? I'm 34.
I'm 33. But I wonder if the question is about how old can Daygamers be?
Yeah, a lot of guys are like worrying it's too late. You know, again, if
It's
you
not the way.
look at the rational well-being, the peak for a guy is maybe 36, 37. You've got
I've
plenty of
coached
time.
guys in their 50s, man.
Yeah, and they still do well, you know. And I've got a coach I work with, a guy called Silver Fox, who's like 45, and he regularly dates 18-year-olds. So
Boom.
I wouldn't say that would be what I'd be doing, because I'm not sure what the fuck I'm going to have in common with an 18-year-old. But
Dude, I remember like in Portugal, the same guy. So we had a 2-bedroom Airbnb, and I'm sleeping at night, and I wake up because I hear, "Oh yes, daddy! Oh yes, daddy! Fuck me harder, daddy!" And the guy's like 46 or something, and the chick was 18.
Really?
It was the same day, like
30 years, almost different. That's fucking
yes,
insane.
daddy.
Jesus. But yeah, some guys, they like that stuff. Do you still do 25 to 30 sets a week, or in the first 1 to 2 years? When I go to a new place, yes, I try and force myself out, but I won't go necessarily like 25 in 2 days. I'll be still building it up like 5 a day, depending on how long I got in that place. If I'm going to be only be there for a week, yeah, I'll try and aim to hammer it the first day.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
Like,
You do get apathy though when you've done this. I've been doing this fucking five,
yeah,
6
I'm
years.
horny.
Yeah, so then it's offset by the horniness, right?
I
You have
just
to feel
go
the
there
horniness.
like, I don't want to do this. I want to get laid, and you do those like you go out and you say I'm going to do 10 sets today, and even if you do like 5 in the first day, you still have the feeling, oh, I went out and you spoke to chicks and they were hot, and like you saw those tits and you saw those asses, and you're like, I'm going to go again
and it
tomorrow.
spurs you on. It's like that spurs you on.
So you just have to go out, like do it a bit, but yeah, I do 25 in a new city or when I arrive and I don't have regulars there, definitely.
And passion results from action as well. So if you're feeling apathetic, the best way to do that is not some mindset shit. It's just to go and actually take the action, and then that passion inside you starts to build because you've taken the action. And that leads on to what the question was about. What are some thoughts and mantras for before you do your first approach? But really, yeah, I mean, the reason I got into this, as you said, was because I wanted more options with hot women. I was bored of banging and dating substandard girls. I felt I deserved better, and that I knew the way to do that was get out and speak to them sober and fucking face that fear, because I was fucking terrified.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, that is, for me, it's still the way. You see that hot girl and it's almost like face that fucking fear. And the result be, you might be, you're on a date that evening with her and you take her home. And that's kind of the point of what we're doing, right? Yeah. Any kind of other kind of topics or anything you want to touch on? We'll be going about an hour now. If guys, obviously, if you're seeing this later and you enjoyed this chat, let us know. And me and Mr. Church Mouse can do this again. I'm sure we'll be crossing paths at some stage again.
We'll be both in Mexico for a while. You're going to be here for a few more weeks.
But any final thoughts for guys out there? Anything you want to kind of cover? Anything we've missed?
I think we covered a lot of ground, and we'll probably keep covering ground whenever we run into each other, and we'll have more questions from your audience, more questions from my audience. And
where can guys find you to hear? Because you've got a very good podcast. I've obviously collaborated with you on it, and you've got really cool guests on there, and you've been doing it a long time. There's a lot of value. I've listened to it. So where can guys find you if they want to listen to it?
There's like the mainstream stuff. The mainstream stuff for the casual listener is my podcast, Saint Robert Daygame Pickup Podcast. You can Google that and you'll find it on iTunes, Spotify. My YouTube channel, Saint Robert Daygame or something like that. Just search Saint Robert Daygame and you'll find it on YouTube. That's kind of the mainstream stuff for guys that just want to know like a podcast once a week or whatever. But then there's a lot of shit that goes on behind the scenes and it's like some crazy stories. So if you guys want to know the real shit, then that's usually either in our group chat. We have like a group chat with around 200 guys from all over the world, or the mailing list, because I send all the insider stuff goes out to mailing list and it happens in the group chat. So just go to my website, just search for Saint Robert Daygame and you'll find it, and just sign up for the mailing list. That's the best thing.
That's a good idea. And Guadalajara. So that's hopefully you're gonna go to Guadalajara probably for about a month.
Yeah, I'll go to Guadalajara. So if anyone wants to join,
you've got room for maybe 2 students on a boot camp.
I could do one boot camp with 2 students there. That's definitely in February. It depends if guys come in February and they like it and we get some good stories out, then we might do another one in March. But let's start with the one in February. Just what do they have to do? Yeah,
just get in touch. Send me you're probably going to see this on multiple platforms. So if you've seen it on Facebook, send me a message on Facebook and we'll chat on WhatsApp. If you're seeing this on YouTube later, obviously send me an email, info@jamestusk.com, and include your WhatsApp number. We'll have a chat and we'll figure it out with St. Robert. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, having spent time in Guadalajara recently, it's a cool place. There's a big gringo factor because there's not a lot of tourists. And again, if you're approaching, you're going to do some damage. And there's a lot of hot girls there. And Mexico's great.
I think a big thing about Mexico is a lot of guys have this fear that, oh, I don't speak Spanish. I don't speak any Spanish. And you don't need Spanish, because if you can get over the first 20 seconds of the set and she doesn't know English, you don't understand Spanish, but you both understand what's going on, it's on, and you can pull out Google Translate, and like 50% of the chicks still speak English, so it's not a problem.
I agree. Cool. Absolute pleasure, guys. Any comments? If you see this later on Facebook, comment beneath it. If you have any further questions, obviously I can reply and answer them. But yeah, get in touch. Any coaching inquiries, info@jamestusk.com, or comment here. Send me a DM. And we'll take it from there. And it's been a pleasure. As always, good stuff. Cheers, guys.
Bye, guys.
Guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I hope you learned something. And as I said before the podcast, if you want to work on your game and do a Skype coaching call, then send me an email to robert@strobert.blog. And if you like the call and you decide to come down to Mexico for some infield coaching, the price you pay for the Skype coaching call is used as a part of a prepayment for the infield coaching. So basically, if after the call you decide to sign up for infield coaching, the call is free. And if you're watching this on YouTube, click subscribe. If you want to see other no bullshit, no mental masturbation videos about Daygame and dating, and if you're listening to this on Spotify or iTunes, just leave this podcast a 5-star review, tell what you think about it. It simply helps me reach more guys and help more guys to learn to date girls they actually like.